We are loving the alien this week, no matter the aliens, no matter how much they scare us. And, of course, it's just a good excuse to get David Bowie on. Welcome. This is the Fright Club Podcast.
I'm Hope Madden.
And I am George Wolf, and we are from maddwolf.com, MADDWOLF. Please check it out for all your movie reviews and a special concentration on horror. And that's what we do every week on the Fright Club Podcast, talking about the scary aliens.
But last week it was found footage. Want to take a second? Talk about we got some responses to that.
Spirited conversation. As we knew we would, and that's great. I love that. It's seeing the additional points of view about those found footage, and because we knew going in, it's a very polarizing topic, even for you, because people think of you as a hater, and you're really not. You just don't like the bad ones.
No, but the bad ones outnumber the good so greatly. Yeah. And we didn't get as much pushback for Blair Witch as I thought we would. It was the Paranormal Activity franchise that people really were sorry to see on there. A lot of people really did not dig that. And one of them is Gordon, who's a regular Fright Club listener, our friend Gordon.
Thank you, by the way.
So glad that he commented. And he took issue with the fact that Cannibal Holocaust, I don't think he was suggesting Cannibal Holocaust should be on the list, because we mentioned, it's a narrative film with found footage in it. And we have to give it credit. It is absolutely the first horror movie that used that concept, no question about it. So it was the predecessor of them all, but it's a narrative style film.
Right.
So we didn't include it.
I couldn't tell in his comment whether he's really a fan of it or not. But
I think he's a fan of the film. I don't think he was saying it should be on the countdown, but I think he took issue with the fact that we said it sucked. Right. And yet we like Paranormal Activity.
Right, which obviously he thinks sucks.
Yeah, he doesn't care for that. And he's not alone. A lot of people complained. A lot of people really, especially the first one, really dislike that movie. And you know what? That's cool. It's good to have. Cool. We like to have differing points of view.
Yeah, I think it kind of worked. Well, obviously, because we put it on the list last week. I also like the way, I don't know, we talked much about it. I like the way it plays with and rewards audience expectation throughout the movie. Yeah. I think it does a good job about that. But you know what? If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. There's certainly movies that I love and that we love that just don't work for us. So anyway, thank you for that. We like all the feedback, and I think that seemed to be one of the more widely heard podcasts, I think, that we've done.
And who else we heard from? Our old buddy Knack Mac.
Yeah.
Neil Marshall is back, and
back on the scene.
What he said was that he's been studying found footage for a year, and I wish we'd known that, because we could have had him co-host it with us, because he's our senior Stephen King correspondent, and I think that's probably one of the very best podcasts we did, was the one that he co-hosted.
Well, we find that it helps to get people on who know what they're talking about.
As opposed to the two of us.
Note to self, invite people on. Which we always do, because all our guests have been great. But so he's not only Stephen King, he's found footage, man. He's a man of many talents, Knack Mac. So thank you. What was his bottom line? Was he in favor of our list or no? Do we know?
Well, he hasn't. He just was excited to listen to it and just wanted to let us know he was back, back in circulation. But he hasn't, and that he likes the Gin Blossoms. So, but he hasn't actually commented.
He liked last week's song.
That's right.
Get you some Gin Blossoms on there.
But we don't know whether or not he agrees with our list yet.
Okay, he'll let us know. But and really quick, another quick plug for it's going to be this Wednesday night now, the 10th, is our next Fright Club Live edition. We are going to go to the School Dance of Horror and screen The Loved Ones.
That's right. We're going to do a live podcast, count down the 5 best school dance-related horror films, and then watch The Loved Ones.
Yeah, so I think you can guess
one of my very
there's probably going to be a real tug-of-war at the top to see which comes out at top. But we don't even know yet. At least I don't. So maybe you do. I don't know. And also, we're geeked because we're recording this on Saturday. So in 2 days, Monday, we're going to see The Witch.
Yes.
We get to see an early screening of The Witch, and we are so geeked about it. So next week we'll give you a little heads up about how good that is. And I'm thinking it's going to be good. That's all in the pipeline. Plus, we're excited to join our senior Aussie correspondent, Corey Metcalf. We're going to be on his triple cast. And we're going to talk about the new movie Deadpool.
That's right.
Which we just saw, and he's seen it, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about Deadpool, and that's going to be out on his triple cast next week, or
I'm not positive when it's going to, but I'm sure he'll let us know. Yeah. He's also on Golden Spiral Media, the lovely people who host our podcast.
Yeah. So all that coming up. We appreciate you checking it out, and everybody that hosts with us and invites us to host. So it's just a big love fest, is what it is. As it is this week with the aliens, and we've got a couple that deserve mention because we like them very much, but we didn't consider them horror movies.
That's right. Even though one of them scared the living pants off our son when we let him watch it. And that was just poor parenting, I think. But Signs is a great movie. It is a great movie. And it's spooky, but it's just not it's not a horror film,
right.
To my mind. And then the other one, which is pretty definitely not a horror film, but I just love, is Attack the Block. If you haven't seen Attack the Block, you need to look it up.
Plus, you've seen, even if you don't know it, you've seen one of the stars of it, because one of the stars of Attack the Block is starring in the new Star Wars as Finn.
That's right.
He's the runaway stormtrooper.
And he's so good in Attack the Block. He's
so
good.
Totally different.
Yeah, he is.
He's got that thick Cockney-type accent.
Yeah, well, he's also, he's brooding and angry.
He's like a gang member. They've got a neighborhood gang that is fighting off.
Yeah, he's so good. And Nick Frost is in it, which is always welcome. Yeah, Attack the Block is a great movie.
If you don't know anything about it, so the aliens come to a British neighborhood, and Finn, I forget his name, I'm sorry, John Boyeo, something like that. Apologies. He's part of a neighborhood gang, and he fights them off.
Yeah,
and it's awesome.
It is. It's just a great movie. Yeah, it's so clever and fun. Yeah,
but neither one of those really horror movies, but they're alien movies that we love. So we just want to throw that out there. But let's get to the meat of it. Let's get to loving the aliens, the ones that we do love. And this one will start at number 5. One that we've talked about a little bit before. It's from 2007. Oh, I know we've talked about this with a Knack-Mack because it's a Stephen King adaptation, and it's The Mist.
What's going on? It's death.
Something in the mist! Shut the doors! Shut the doors!
It is time to take sides. Read the good book. It calls for blood.
I promise you won't let the monsters get me.
Who she's gonna sacrifice to make it all better?
We want the boy.
You try it.
Kill him!
One of the great recent creature features. I mean, they are really hard to do a creature feature, and man, this one does it well. And it's a place where you see a lot of creature features. There's alien invasion movies, and some scientists have caused a rupture in the space-time continuum. They opened up a hole, and these crazy-ass monsters have come down to terrorize a small New England town and trap a bunch of shoppers in a glass-fronted grocery store.
Yeah, and you talk about the creature features. Actually, the actual creature, the giant one at the end, originally that was not in Frank Darabont's plans for the movie. He was not going to include that, but they came up with such a cool creature that the special effects techs convinced him to put it in the film.
Nice.
And I don't know why he wouldn't want to include it, but I guess maybe to see what it looked like first. But it looked cool.
Well, yeah, all of them were so cool.
Yeah,
and
they really were.
Super creepy, but the reason the movie works as well as it does is number one, the sense of claustrophobia that he builds inside that grocery store, and then just the microcosm of society that he has inside that grocery store, and some great performances across the board, great performances, but especially, of course, Marcia Gay Harden. Oh my God, as the zealot. Oh, she's so great.
And that's the thing. It plays with, that's one of the things that I love about the movie, because inside the market there, when they're trapped, it really starts playing with ideas of fanaticism and zealotry and things like that. And she is just great. She's great anyway.
She is. She's always
is
great.
Good. But it's interesting because apparently Stephen King got the idea for the book because he was in a market in Maine, of course, and he noticed that the front window was made of plate glass, and he just wondered what would happen if giant insects flew into it. And then it's on.
Yeah.
And of course they do. And yeah, so it's just funny how, writers get these ideas, because my Lord, he's put so many books.
Oh, my God.
How do these ideas keep coming? But it does. It plays with the claustrophobia really well, and the fanaticism, and the performances are great. And there's always, when you can't see what's out there, it could be dark, but no, this time it's the mist that you can't see. So that makes it even scarier, especially when they send that one guy out the first time. Yeah. And you can't see, you can just kind of hear, and then
every once in a while it's like a big tentacle or something. Oh my God. Yeah, it's I should mention, because the last time we talked about this, it blew up on Twitter, that of course we did not mention there's a black and white version of this movie, which is really the one to see if you get the opportunity. It's gorgeous, and it adds to the throwback creature feature feel of the whole film. But for me, it's the ending. It's the ending of the movie that, as I've mentioned before, I think is the reason why it did not do particularly well at the box office when it first came out. And at the same time, I think it's why people remember it well. It's a provocative ending. It's a gut punch, but for me, just perfect.
Mm-hmm. It's one that was controversial even for the filmmakers. I mean, the first time Darabont was offered this movie, they wanted to change his planned ending, and he walked away from it. And apparently the story goes, Bob Weinstein, who, the Weinsteins don't always get a good reputation, made the movie for half that amount and let him do his ending, which I think is a good call because, man, does it really work. It's really it's a scary ending, but it's a very thoughtful ending.
Oh my God, yeah, and so emotional. It's a brilliant way to end that film. Everything about it, not just the shock, but also the drive-by, the scene of the people on the truck. Everything about it. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, and actually, he had planned. It's a little different, though, I guess, than what Darabont originally wanted. He originally wanted a second truck to come by of survivors, and that truck would have been filled with most of the people from the market, letting him know that they should have never left the market. The only problem is, by the time they got around to that, all those people were gone from the set. They were gone. But
I liked the ending as it was, because the group that came past included the woman who wanted somebody so badly to walk her home, because she'd left her kids at home. The bad mom, we like to call her. And it was a very emotional film and just a really provocative way to end it.
Yeah, and this is another of the many movies that features the Wilhelm scream. You can hear that in there. I think it's when the character of Cornell dies. There's the Wilhelm scream in there, which is always just kind of funny to me how many movies use that. And also in the very beginning, you see a poster on the wall of the original movie, The Thing.
Oh, nice.
It's in there in the poster on the wall, which I think we may be talking about later.
What?
But definitely one of I forget where this movie was on our list of Stephen King adaptations. I know it was on there.
Yeah.
I forget how high it was.
It was pretty high. We had The Shining and Carrie ahead of it, I think.
Yeah, it's a good one, and this is one that actually Stephen King says that he was generally frightened by it, which Darabont described as one of the happiest moments of his career.
Oh, so, nice. Yeah, he's obviously a very big Stephen King fan.
Obviously,
since he's made his entire career just redoing his movies.
But yeah, this is one that really works, and definitely why we love this Alien from 2007, The Mist. And that is number 5, and going up to number 4 is another one that we love, and we've talked about one or two times.
Yeah, several, I think.
2006, so much fun with aliens. It's Slither.
From Universal Pictures
Tree is sick or something.
comes a film so shocking. We got a real problem here. So disgusting.
Don't let him in your mouth!
It will change the face of horror.
Marriage is a sacred bond, for better or worse.
Much worse.
This was our first live Fright Club event at the Gateway Film Center with Slither.
Yeah,
the very
that's
first
right.
one we did there.
Because it's one that you can, people that don't like horror movies, in fact, you got some friends, right,
Yes.
came that night that don't really like horror movies, but hey, come on, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
very, very fun. It's a bit gross, and it's a little scary at times, more gross than scary, but it's so funny. It is so well written. Written and directed by James Gunn, who, of course, is very famous now for having directed Guardians of the Galaxy, but at the time, all he'd really done, he wrote the Scooby-Doo movie. He wrote the important thing to us, he wrote the remake of Dawn of the Dead, and then, of course, he's got this long history with Trauma, which is, so it's like all of those things fed into this film, which homages a lot of other B horror movies,
including the Trauma film, The Toxic Avenger.
Yes, of course.
Brenda is watching it with her baby when Grant comes to her house. So
another good mom.
Exactly. That's just one of the many. I mean, it is chock full of them. You've got the. We talked about this the last time we ran down this movie. You've got R.J. McCready's funeral home in the street, and that is of course Kurt Russell's character in The Thing. You've got there's just a ton. You can look them up easy, but I mean there's a ton of them, which just shows you how much of an homage it is and how much of that spirit went into this movie.
Oh yeah, well for me the main one that it very obviously pays tribute to is a B 80s movie called Night of the Creeps, which is another alien invasion film where slugs turn people into zombies. It's I love Night of the Creeps actually, and always have loved that movie, and it's comedic and campy, and this takes that and it just does it with so much more talent. It just does it so much more convincingly, and the cast is just spot on.
Cast is great. Michael Rooker as the guy who gets infected, is great.
As Grant.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Banks, this is really one of her first big, she had some other small roles, but this one really kind of propelled her a little bit, I think.
And of course Nathan Fillion. Who was awesome. And Greg Henry.
Greg Henry, the sheriff, is great. Yeah. I love his just attitude throughout the whole thing. And it's got those really creepy scenes. Of course, the bathtub scene, which has been done many times.
It was right out of Cronenberg's Shivers.
Yes, it was.
And it was clearly an homage to that film.
Yeah, but well done. Really well done. Very creepy. All the ways the different slugs, might infect you. That great big, remember the woman,
big womb woman,
yeah, who couldn't stop eating.
She's so hungry. Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, but still, it kept its fun about it.
Yeah, very. Yeah. Oh my God, very fun, very funny.
And of course, it's got a couple of big cameos. The director James Gunn is a teacher at Starless School. He's in there, and Rob Zombie's there.
He's the doctor on the phone.
On the phone.
Yeah,
he's the voice of Dr. Carl. So there's just one of those movies where you can see it so many times and just keep looking for things.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and that's and it has a post credits scene.
It does.
Yeah, did we talk about that before? I don't know.
I don't know.
That shows the cat getting possessed by the last surviving creature, and it actually in the early draft of the movie that was meant to happen to Bill after the Grant creature gets destroyed. And Starless sees the resulting wound later, and then prompting her to shoot Bill to death. That was, yeah.
That would have made everybody sad, because you just want them to get together.
You do. So I think they made the right call that it was going to be getting the cat. Yeah, it's always the cat. But it's funny how those things can change. You can look up, like we talked about last week, the alternate endings of movies. But they go through different stages, different drafts to get to the one that they like. And I think they made the right call there.
Oh yeah, I love this movie. It's just one of the most fun horror movies I think that you can watch. I just love this movie.
Yeah, because I think that's a tough balance to strike correctly.
I think so too.
It really is. Because first of all, being funny is so hard. To do it right, especially and to mix it with scares and thrills, is a really tough line to toe.
Yeah.
But they do it really, really well, so that you're scared, you're grossed, but at the same time, you walk out of there thinking it was just like a fun thrill ride.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they do it really well, and that's why Slither is one of the aliens that we love, and that's from 2006, and that comes in at number 4. And up at number 3, I'm excited about this because this is one that we haven't talked about at all. And I remember it so well when it came out because I think I was in maybe 8th grade.
Wow.
When this came out. Yeah, and it was really got a lot of buzz. And it's the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978.
Elizabeth, wake up! Get you when you sleep! Sit up!
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
It's got no detail, no character. It's unformed.
All of a sudden, they're growing like parasites. Is it contagious? People are being duplicated.
How do you know my name?
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Help! Help! They're coming! You're next! Here they are! They're already here! Come! You're next! They're coming!
One of the many things that jumps out about this movie, first of all, it was directed by Philip Kaufman.
Right.
Who's got a heck of a resume.
Especially as a writer.
As a writer and a director. I mean, he wrote screenplays for Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Right Stuff.
Yeah.
He directed things like Henry and June.
Yeah.
I mean, just look him up. He's got a long and storied career as both a writer and the director. Not everything great, but he's done some really, really good work. And this is among the entries in his resume that really stands out. And of course, it's the remake. And I forget the year the original one came out.
1956,
it's the
maybe?
50s, yeah, the 50s. Somewhere. About
1956.
Yeah, about the Body Snatchers. But in 1978, of course, Donald Sutherland and his fro.
That's right. And actually, they set his hair in curlers. They wanted him to look the way he looked in Don't Look Back.
Don't Look Now.
I knew that wasn't right. Yeah, Don't Look Now. Mm-hmm. They liked the way he looked in that film. And so they set his hair on curlers so he'd have the same curly hair, which kills me. I don't know why that seemed appropriate, but it did.
I think a great little callback to the first one is, remember when they're in the car, when Sutherland and Brooke
Kevin
Adams.
McCarthy.
Yeah, when Brooke Adams are in the car. Kevin McCarthy, who was starred in the original one, comes up as a homeless man. In fact, you hear it on the trailer that we played, pounding on the window, saying, "You're next, you're next." And it's funny, when he was rehearsing that, they filmed it in San Francisco, and when he was rehearsing that scene, a homeless man recognized him and just walked past and said the first one was better.
Nice.
But Kevin McCarthy, if you don't know him, you'd recognize his face. He's one of those guys, been in everything. And it's a great way, I think, to bridge the two movies. And it was so cool of him to do that. because it's very effective.
It is.
You know, the way he's screaming, "You're next! They're already here!" and they go off down the street. It's great.
Yeah, it's absolutely great. There are a lot of weird cameos in this one. Robert Duvall on the swing set as a priest, which they never really explain, like ever. You're just like, why is he on the swing set as a priest?
Well, and actually, he just happened to be in San Francisco at the time, and he shot that scene for free.
Nice.
Apparently, because he had worked with Philip Kaufman before, and it was in the area. And actually, Philip Kaufman has a cameo. He plays an impatient man rapping on the window of a phone booth that Donald Sutherland has occupied. So that's the director. So yeah, there's a bunch of them in there, which is fun. And I guess a cameo that you just hear is the homeless banjo guy.
Yeah.
His banjo playing was actually performed by Jerry Garcia.
Wow.
Yeah, of course, San Francisco.
I was going to say, he might have really just been sitting on the street playing the banjo, and they just filmed around him.
Maybe that was Jerry. But, it's very, very effective. I mean, it ratchets up the tension about the pod people, especially when you see them, like when anybody really, but I'm thinking specifically when Sutherland falls asleep there, and then you just see it come out of the ground and starts wrapping around his hand.
Yeah, and so what they did with the original was they really played on Cold War fears, not necessarily just of sort of the Russians or the communist threat, but also maybe internally of like McCarthyism, and
conformity.
Right, and in the 70s, we had a lot of the same kind of issues, although they were more focused internally, and it was a good time for the film to be remade, and they did a brilliant job of it. The cast is just remarkable, and there is some really, I think, insightful casting, like Leonard Nimoy playing somebody who would soon have no feelings whatsoever, and then Jeff Goldblum is just the effortless weirdo. Jeff Goldblum he's just great. He's a great choice for anything, I think. And of course, Veronica Cartwright, who screams well when an alien shocks her.
Yeah, that's the good thing about her character, and we'll talk about her, of course, a little bit later.
What?
But it's funny, too, because one of the things that made her so scared, only the director, Kaufman, the writer, and Donald Sutherland knew how it was going to end. They did not tell her specifically that Sutherland's character, spoiler alert, was going to become an alien. So when they filmed that ending in front of the San Francisco City Hall, and it became very obvious that's how it was going to end, that her reaction was very, very authentic, because she didn't know.
Right.
Which is, directors do that a lot, and with good reason. But boy, you can really tell when it works like that. Yeah.
That creepy face that he makes when he points, that creepy face.
Yeah.
Our senior evil twin correspondent, my sister Joy, she does that perfectly. She does a perfect imitation of that.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, and so this one came out about 20 years or so after the original, and then they tried it again. They dressed it up a little bit in 2007 with Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig, called The Invasion.
Yeah, which was pretty much panned. Although
I didn't see it. Did you?
No, no. Nobody seemed to care for it, and we didn't bother with it. But, I mean, this concept, almost identical, has been really very popular in horror movies. And one of my favorites is The Faculty, right, with Jon Stewart and Bebe Neuwirth. And it's really quite
fun.
good.
Yeah.
And it's basically the same. It's basically the same idea. Also, other ones that are very along a similar line, They Live. Which,
Roddy Piper.
Yeah. Society. I don't know. A lot of people saw Society, but it's pretty decent for a really campy 80s horror movie. And then The Stuff, which is just my own personal. It's bad. It's terrible. But I love Larry Cohen films. So
yeah, and it's. I think you're right about those points about when certain movies are ripe to be remade because of what's going on in society, which is really one of the many cool things about horror movies. The good ones always seem to mirror what is happening in society, maybe politically or socially, because they feed on whatever the fears are of the time.
Social anxieties of the time, absolutely.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And this one does that. 1978, the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and that is number 3, which moves us up to the last 2, and they're goodies. And we've talked about this one at least a few times.
Yeah.
From 1982, another remake, it's The Thing.
I know I'm human. Some of you are still human. This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to, but it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, then it has no more enemies. Nobody left to kill it. And then it's won.
You guys gonna listen to Gary? He can beat one of those things!
Yeah, it's funny because if you just say the remake of The Thing, a lot of people think of the one that came out with Mary Elizabeth Winstead a few years ago. But no, because The Thing was a remake
The
of
Thing from Another
The
World.
Thing from Another World. Yeah, which was back. That was the 50s as well.
It was. I
too.
think it was 52.
52, yeah. And this was one, John Carpenter, pretty much now it's looked at his crowning glory, I think. Halloween, but...
Well, I think even John Carpenter himself thinks The Thing is his better film.
But the funny thing was...
It was a bomb.
It was, and it was panned. It was one of those that didn't get the love until later. But, that's okay. It's got the love now. And it earned it. Yeah, it was a bomb. I think we mentioned the last time it came out on the same day, maybe as I think Blade Runner. E.T. was out at the time.
Yeah.
So not many people went to this, but the critics were awful.
Yeah,
those darn critics.
Those darn critics.
But as it has just grown in stature, not only for the special effects, which. Okay, you look at them now, but even so,
I still love them.
They are.
I do.
They're great.
I still love them.
But at the time, there were such groundbreaking special effects, and it does such a great. It uses the claustrophobia so well, and the devices of it just lets you see enough, but you still don't know who is a human and who isn't. You just see shadows, and you don't know who got the cat. You just saw the shadow there, so you don't know who it might be. And so it's really, really well done in that way.
It is. It was written by Bill Lancaster, who also wrote one of both of our all-time favorites, the original Bad News Bears.
Yep.
So you got a pedigree there. But also, I mean, for my money, obviously John Carpenter is an incredibly talented director, but I think this is his best use of camera to emphasize the absolute isolation of these humans, and then at the same time the claustrophobic nature of their sort of togetherness that they can't get away from, which are very different ideas, but regardless you are trapped. And I think that he develops a tension in that particular theme better than maybe any other movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's so well done. And it's funny, we were talking about the special effects. The guy who created them was only 22 years old.
Shut up!
Yeah, a guy named Rob Bottin was only 22 years old when he started the project, and it just became so groundbreaking. Not only then, but it's looked back on as just really an incredible use of the special effects, especially when because it can turn into anything.
Yeah, and
then when the spider legs come out, and it has a human face.
You just inside the compound with all the facial hair, you got, it's just, and it's so masculine with all of these, ramped up hostilities and just, cowardice and Keith David. And it's just, it's just so volatile and nasty. It's just terrifying. It's a really incredibly well put together, really, really tense horror film.
Yeah, and with the X-Files just getting rebooted, you remember that there was an episode called Ice back in '93, which is a direct homage to this movie, which you can see, especially in the X-Files movie too. They end up in a compound with aliens out there and all the snow and the ice. But a lot of people making movies now look back on it, and they're so influenced by this movie. And I didn't know this. John Carpenter, I guess, considers this part of his Apocalypse trilogy with Prince of
from New York?
Prince of Darkness after this, and then In the Mouth of Madness, which I know both of those don't hold up to this at all.
In the Mouth of Madness has a lot of fans. I mean, it's got a lot of cult fans. I think Prince of Darkness does as well, but I think people who like that movie are more likely to accept that it's a B film.
Yeah.
But
yeah, one of the things
none of them stand up to the Thing. They just don't.
Not at all. Not at all. But one of the things I think is cool at the very beginning, the words spoken by the pilot entering the camp, it's actually the Norwegians can understand it. Actually, what they're saying is, get the hell out of here. That's not a dog. It's some sort of thing. It's imitating a dog. It isn't real. Get away.
Nice.
So if you happen to be Norwegian or understand, I think that's very cool. And that's one of the things I like, too, about the remake with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, that when they use the dog at the very end,
you realize it's a prequel.
It's a prequel. So I thought that was very cool. And then, a lot of people talk about the ending of this movie as to how do they know, who was a human and who wasn't. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I guess, John Carpenter thought that it was pretty obvious, because he says the way he specifically shot the last scene, it was very harshly backlit, and he says that it's completely glaringly obvious that Kurt Russell is breathing and Keith David is not. to him. But then other people say that in the remake, the prequel, they have that whole thing about the metal, and I get that Keith David is wearing an earring, I think, or in the end. So you go back and forth about it, but at least you if that's true, in that interview that John Carpenter, that was his vision for it, and so he shot the film. He says it's very obvious, but you never know. Yeah, so that's number 2, the 1982 version of The Thing, and that leaves room only at the top, and you can probably guess when we're talking about aliens. Number 1 from 1979, Alien.
Oh, God!
No, don't touch it! Don't touch it!
It's the John Hurt chest explosion.
It is. I so distinctly remember seeing this in the theater when it first came out and didn't know much about it. I think I was maybe a freshman in high school, and just your head just couldn't handle that scene. Like, oh my God, I had no idea it was coming.
Yeah,
wow.
Absolutely. As the film has aged, there are some films where you've got the one oh my God moment, and then you realize 10 years later that's really all the movie has. But this is just an impeccably crafted, really haunted house movie, to be honest. And the more you look at just every detail in the craft and in the planet with the eggs, and just everything about it is so perfect.
The eggs, and it's funny you bring up, well, everybody does when we talk about this movie, the chest bursting scene. A guy named Roger Dickon, who designed and operated the creatures, his original vision for the chest scene was to have the little alien actually pull itself out of Kane's torso with its hands. Can you imagine that? Like, and that he thought it would have produced a much more horrifying effect than all the blood and all the guts. I don't know. I think it works pretty darn well.
Oh my God, it does.
As it keeps boom, boom. You see it punching, and then break through.
Oh yeah. Woo. Oh yeah. And another great Veronica Cartwright scream.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's a case where they didn't realize, the cast didn't realize just how much blood, was going to come flying out of there. So the look on her face, because she got splattered.
Oh, she did.
And it's such an iconic scene, but it's this movie. You can't just reduce it to that scene because it's got so much going for it.
Oh my God, it does. And everything about it was familiar and simultaneously completely new. So that you almost felt lulled into complacency, and then, oh my God, the alien. You're like, it comes out of him and it's little. And then the next thing you know, it's huge.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, it drips acid. And the next thing you know, it's got an extra set of teeth inside his mouth.
I know.
Everything about that alien is so fantastic.
The way it was designed, it looks fantastic. And also that little caveat of it has acid for blood. That came about when they were brainstorming. And Dan O'Bannon, the writer, he couldn't come up with a logical reason why the crew just wouldn't shoot it. And somebody else, I think it was one of the artists, came up with the fact that what if its blood was acid?
Nice.
Bingo!
Oh my God, genius!
And they're off and running. It's so great. Everything about it, and it looks fantastic. And the way Ridley Scott shoots it, because in a lot of them, they found the 7-foot tall guy in the area who's in a suit, and the way he shoots it was out of necessity because he didn't want it to be cut from angles. He shot from certain angles, so it was not apparent that there's a guy in there. But those angles work so well. You don't ever see it like straight on because apparently that was too obvious. There's a guy in there, but it works. It works the way he shoots the alien.
Just like the way, Spielberg had to work around a malfunctioning shark, in Jaws, and then the final product is so much scarier because of how little you see of the shark.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about the way he filmed this, and for me, just the egg alone, and then all of it. It fed so beautifully into really a quite outstanding sequel, which is, Aliens, the sequel is, as I've said before, it's an action movie. The Alien is a horror film.
Yeah.
The second was an action movie, and a great one. It's a great action movie. And Sigourney Weaver makes a great action hero just as she makes a great horror hero. And, as we've mentioned before, her role in this film, which originally it wasn't necessarily female, when Ridley Scott allegedly when offering him the role, he wasn't that interested in it. So he said, "What if Ripley is a female?" And that made him interested in it. Obviously, it absolutely made the film more interesting. It made the sequel even more interesting.
Yeah.
But it really altered horror movies forever, because prior to that, the final girl was wholesome and, strong, but in a very different way. But then we got the final girl who is just taking charge, kicking ass, could have been a guy, doesn't matter, sexuality is irrelevant, and really has, going forward, completely altered the landscape of horror and then also action films.
Although they do find a way to get her in her underpants in the end there.
Yeah, they do.
I'm with you, though, because very much so, very groundbreaking in that way, and she just nails it.
Yeah, because you buy
kills it.
It's not like, there are certain horror films where, she's, this beautiful, tiny, fragile thing, and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, there's no way but Sigourney Weaver, like, yeah, she could beat you up.
Yeah. I guess when they were when Ridley Scott was casting, he invited several women from the production office to watch the different screen tests, and she just impressed these women no end.
Yeah.
And then she was pretty well unknown.
Yeah,
really?
It was before Ghostbusters. She hadn't really done an awful lot of, and then of course that mullet.
Yeah. But she just has such a presence about
she
it,
does.
and you totally believe it when she takes charge. Because when Ash disobeys her order, to let them on the ship, and she's got just slowly builds like what are you doing, and then it just goes, and she takes more charge.
Yeah.
Because when Dallas is off the ship, she's in charge. Yeah. And it's so cool. And you brought up the eggs, the egg chamber, and you'll like this. The laser lights that are used in the egg chamber there, they were borrowed from The Who.
Nice!
They were testing out lasers for their stage show in the sound stage next door.
That's awesome.
All you need was Roger Daltrey's Wilhelm scream there. That would have worked. But yeah, the egg was so cool. Even on the movie poster.
Oh my God, the egg was so awesome. And plus the tagline, in space, no one can hear you scream.
One of the best.
It was just absolute genius.
Ever.
Just genius.
Everything about it. And it's just so holds up. Because you're right, it's like a haunted house type of monster type of thing, because you've got the claustrophobia angle. And then, when you, at the extra ending where then she thinks she's alone, and then you see it move.
Oh, yeah.
And she has to just strap herself. It's just, just great. Just great.
It's awesome.
And I'm with you on the second one being not a horror movie. I mean, you'll find people that will argue for it being a horror movie, and okay.
Sure. But it's absolutely an action movie. I don't think it is. It's a great action movie. It is it might be my favorite action film.
It is so good. But I'm with you on that. This one is more of a horror movie. So this is why we'll stick it at number 1 in Loving the Alien podcast countdown from 1979. It is Alien. But what do you think? If you think Aliens deserves it up there, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter, as always. An easy way. Can
I tell you which one they're going to be mad about? I'm going to predict it.
All right.
The Blob.
The Blob. Okay. Going to be mad about the Blob.
That's my guess.
All right. Well, we'll see. MADDWOLF, Mad Wolf on Twitter. Our Facebook page is Mad Wolf Columbus on Facebook. And, of course, Golden Spiral Media, like we say, the fine folks that host it. And you can also catch a lot of our reviews and a lot of horror stuff on ScreenRelish.com.
That's right. Right at this minute. In fact, I did the Saturday Screamer this week, and it's Bubba Hotep, Groovy Bruce. And actually, I did it last week, too, with Alleluia, a great Belgian horror movie. You know how we love Belgian horror.
Yeah, but Bubba Hotep, Groovy Bruce Campbell, a little something for the ladies.
Southbound. I got a review of the horror film Southbound up there this week. So, yeah, go to ScreenRelish.com and check it out.
Yeah, and next week, we'll give you a little heads up on how we like The Witch, because we're going to see that on Monday. And
actually, we're going to do a podcast on witches 2 weeks out.
Okay.
Yeah, best witches horror movies. If you have some thoughts, let us know.
On witches?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And as always, if you're in the area on Wednesday, the 10th, please stop by. We'll be at the Gateway Film Center right on High Street, Ohio State University campus. We get underway with a happy hour in the bar there about 6:30. Have a few pops, and then head in about 7:30 to do the podcast, record that live with an audience. Audiences are always great. So come on out and join the fun there, and then we'll show the loved ones after we get done counting down our school dance horror, and that's on Wednesday the 10th.
Yeah, come on, it'll be fun.
All right, so we look forward to that. Until then, I'm George Wolf.
I'm Hope Madden.
And this is the Fright Club Podcast.
Stay frightful, my friends.
Leaving the strange